Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Thought Leadership Seminar and Webinar with our esteemed guests from Telivy and Actifile. Today, the topic is building a solution for MSPs to protect their clients' data, and we're kind of doing this a little bit of a series. So this is our second session in the theme here. I'm Frank Raimondi, by the way. I'll be the host and guide today. And we will get started in just a moment. Going to let a few more of your colleagues join in, and we'll start within a minute or two. Okay, well, let's get started. Again, thank you for attending today. What we wanted to sort of lay out a little bit of housekeeping today. This is very much meant to be an interactive discussion. So along the way, or just something pops into your head, just please go to the questions sort of link within the GoToMeeting platform and ask questions in there, and we'll review them as we go and stop if we need to, or we'll have some specific time for Q&A. We'd also like to, request any, topics and presenters in the future that you'd like to hear from. So please use that chat or question section as well. We do a couple different types of webinars and sessions. This is a kind of a thought leadership, more just kind of discussing things that can be done and used. But we also have more of a demo session, a peer Q&A, where we bring in current users of Nodeware and other thought leaders to kind of walk through more technical questions. Kind of an open, non-committal way to ask your questions or just to see demos and get a feel for that. But you can check out our schedules at nodeware.com/events. And for all registrants for today's session, we will be sending out a recording, and you'll be able to watch this or share this with your colleagues. Upcoming events, we've got a couple things coming. First is next Friday is open office hours for 7-figure MSP members, which is ongoing every other week. We do this, just again, kind of an open session. Come in, ask questions, see a demo, and we'd love to have you on that. And then our next scheduled one, we'll probably have one in between this, but with summertime and vacations, it's a little bit more hard. But we are sort of our part 3 in the series that I mentioned is more sort of the, protecting the client's data from a slightly different perspective with Security Studio as our guest. They've done a risk assessment tool that utilizes the Nodeware data directly in the platform. So that's what's upcoming. So let me get right to today's session. I'll introduce our esteemed panelists, Naren Sathiya from Telivy, co-founder and CEO, and Bill Falk from CEO, he's a CEO advisor with Actifile. So Naren, maybe you want to just give a quick intro on a little bit of your background and Telivy as well.
Yeah, happy to, Frank. Thanks for having us, by the way. Super excited for this. So basically, we provide automated cybersecurity risk assessments that helps you identify, analyze, and monitor cyber liabilities holistically across 5 different areas: data, network, IAM policies, application, and security awareness. MSPs can use this as part of their sales process to educate their prospects, or you can use us to actually decrease your SecOps workload through automation so that you can really focus on what's important, which are your clients.
Got it. Okay, and Bill?
Bill Falk, glad to be here with everybody today, and thanks to Nodeware and Telivy for putting this together. So Actifile is a component in the fight against threats, and very happy to be here today to talk about our role in that and how we work together with these fine companies to help MSPs fight the good fight.
Great. Okay, thanks. So to set up, kind of back to the now it's perfect timing, Fozzie. The timing, the discussion is about protecting data, and so we kind of are wanting to set up sort of the combination, right? There's dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of cybersecurity tools and resources for an MSP and for their customers. But looking at, data protection in particular, right? We wanted to sort of look at a way to make it easier for an MSP to deliver value to their client, right? There's one thing of, identification, there's evaluating, there's protecting that data, and then there's,
Looks like we might have lost Frank. Is that Naren? Or
Some technical difficulties. Yeah, still here.
give him a sec. So
reporting it and providing it in whether it's compliance or insurance or other requirements that are needed for the of an asset. There's a
Frank, we seem to be
okay or see me?
No, you're frozen right now.
it may be in the spirit
Okay, I'm
of.
gonna turn off my camera and see if that helps a little bit.
Okay, try that.
Okay, let's try that again. I turned off my camera. Let's see if that helps.
Yeah, we can hear
us in the system. Okay, perfect. So in that mix, right, sort of providing that combination, Naren, maybe you can kind of describe a little bit about what your tool is doing, kind of utilizing different resources and trying to minimize the the confusion out there, if you will, right, from an MSP and their customers.
Yeah, I mean, so it's essentially what we do is we follow a process in which to a point, we identify what type of assets are available. That might be hardware, software, your data repositories, and what type of employees that you might have, what type of vendor access. So we identify that. We look at all the threat vectors basically. So what are type of vulnerability that might be found in each one of those, and how can an exploit happen when you combine all of them together. And then so those essentially we categorize as the threat vectors, and then we look at when the exploit does happen, what is the impact of it, both from a legal perspective, financial perspective, so that you can communicate that to your client. And then at the very least, at the end, we look at recommendations for mitigations, right? So like what are the actual kind of defenses that you can put up to eliminate that threat vector as much as possible. So we bring together multiple different tools, including Nodeware for identifying the vulnerabilities on multiple different devices, and we look at Actifile to look at what type of data that you might have and what type of liability associated with it. And then we bring that all together and create a plan essentially that makes it really easy for you to communicate to your clients how to approach cyber risk. And at least start that conversation, or you can use it for the prospecting piece, or you can also use it for monitoring ongoing clients. So you can let them know that security is the utmost concern as an MSP for you as well.
Yeah, maybe describe sort of the use case. So you describe kind of what you can do and how you can do it, but what of your customers today, how are they using Telivy? I mean, is it compliance? Is it insurance? Is it audits? Is it HIPAA? Is it all the above? Maybe just a couple specific use cases there would be helpful.
Yeah, so one of the main use cases that we're focused on right now is on essentially winning prospects over, right? So instead of going into a new customer, just essentially talking to them about different IT packages and tools and different type of software tools, letting them really know that with the type of software and with the type of digital tools that they're using, there's also a lot of risk associated with it. And what are those risks? You have to kind of give them visibility on top of it. So how can you do that in a very processified manner? And we help you do that very easily. For prospects. And also if you have any break fix clients and you want to move them over to managed, and if you want to essentially increase your security revenue or shares from them, then you're also able to use the tool to let them know and basically educate them on what their vulnerabilities are, so that you can follow up with the right type of solutions from some other tools and remediation plans and stuff as well. So we're looking at that, and we're slowly moving into the monitoring piece as well, where we are alerting and notifying you every time there is a new asset that might pop up, there's a new liability that might show up, or if there's a new remediation plan that we have kind of figured out there as well.
Yeah.
So those are
and that's again kind of back to the value of your integration, right? You're taking our data, you're taking Actifile data, other sources, and kind of making smart out of individual smartness, right? Sort of a collective smart.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we all do essentially parts of the full piece, parts of the puzzle. If we put it all together, we become essentially a very powerful risk simulation tool that can not only be used to actually educate the clients, educate the MSP themselves, but also use it to really evaluate what the threats are and kind of advance the level of protection that you can offer to your clients.
Got it. Perfect. All right. Well, so I think that leads us well into kind of to see it, right? So we kind of hopefully we've set up for the attendees what they can, what they can utilize it for, and sort of the use case. So maybe we can have Jeremy switch on his screen and share a little bit and talk through, kind of a quick 5-minute demo of what Telivy does. So there we go. Take it away, Jeremy.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. I'm Jeremy Lamb, and I'm head of partnerships at Telivy, and automated risk assessments platforms for MSPs to win new clients and monitor existing clients, like Naren just said. So just checking, Frank, can you see my Telivy screen okay?
Yep, comes up perfect.
Awesome, awesome. So just to recap a little bit on what Telivy is. So MSPs like Health Data Solutions, Triad Networks, and Level 5 Management, our customers love Telivy because MSPs reduce risk assessments that normally take 7 to 8 days manually to just under 5 hours, fully automated with Telivy. So today I'm going to be showing you how you can automate your risk assessments with Telivy for free right now. So you could do this by going to our website, telivy.com, Telivy.com, and follow along. This is what you'll see when you create your account and log in. I'll be showing you 3 main steps. Number 1 is configuration. Number 2 is the data feeds. And number 3 is the report you'll get at the end. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is I'll show you when you log in, you'll see the screen. Simply click on this Create Assessment button, and you're going to see an external assessment and a full risk assessment. We're going to be focusing on these for today. The external assessment, super simple, takes under a minute to set up, runs for about 10 minutes, and it's just this really quick, simple, light version of an assessment. However, today we're going to be focusing on this full risk assessment, which is the one that you want to run on your machine, on your client machines. So we're going to go ahead and click select risk assessment, and the setup is extremely simple. All you got to do is enter in the company name, enter in the company domain, and then hit create. And then the Telivy platform takes care of everything for you after that. So I'm going to exit out and show you an example of a risk assessment that's running. So I'm going to go ahead and find an example. So after you've hit create your assessment, you can now come into this in progress assessment that's running right now to track to basically set it up. We can scroll down here to see this PowerShell script. Really, really simple. Just copy this PowerShell script and run it to start installing Telivy on your machines. Now, normally you would have to install on every machine, like you have 15 machines, 100 machines, you'd have to install it all manually. You could just run this PowerShell script, and once you run it, you could head over to Assets and just see the installation status on every machine. You don't have to be going back and forth to check, oh, has this machine finished installing? Has this other machine finished installing? Very, very simple, easy to use, and fully automated. So we can also come here and check the device installation status. We could also come here and check how many domains it's scanned. And once you've seen that, okay, it's been installed on enough devices, it's done scanning on enough domains, you can hit Start Assessment. So that starts running the assessment, and I'm going to show you fast forward to you getting some of that data. So let's check out our data. As Naren mentioned earlier, we assess 5 areas of assessment. There's network security, application security, data security, identity and access, and awareness and training. So we're going to step through all of these for you guys. So starting off with network security, we get our internal vulnerabilities from Nodeware. You could check out the graphs, vulnerability by score, by risk. Scroll down here to check out details of a high vulnerability. Let's check out this. And let's click into this remote code execution vulnerability, see what it's about. It gives us a description, a solution, and then you can act upon it. Very, very useful details. We get external vulnerabilities, which works the same way as the internal, and we get to see all the open ports that we scan. Let's take a look at one of our high severity ports, and you can scroll down to see all of the available open ports that we found. Moving on to the next section, we're going to go check out application security. In application security, we look at online activity that employees engage in, and we identify the risk applications that they use. So you can see the various applications that we found people using. We found people on YouTube, and in addition to using Outlook the most. And we also look to see if the website is following best practices for cookies, settings, response headers, etc. So let's head over to the data security section. We use Actifile to scan for sensitive information on devices, and soon in the cloud too. This is where we find their assets, what their assets are, where they live. Very, very interesting number here. This is the cumulative cost. So, you could tell a story as an MSP to your client. The client can either risk paying this price to react to a breach after the fact, or they could be proactive and work with you, the MSP, to prevent the breach for a fraction of the price. So it's a great selling point for MSPs, which is why MSPs love using Telivy to win new clients. Heading over to the identity and access section. So we analyze password strength found on employee browsers. We retrieve the number of times that those passwords are found on the dark web and breach sites. As you can see here, you could check password strength of each password, literally, what user and device and what password, username, password they use, what their password strength is, how many times that particular password that they're using right now has already been breached. And you can also see your overall DNS health. Moving on to awareness and training. So this section gives you a history of the client's past breaches. So you could tell a fuller story, right? This is something that's happened before. This is a recurring event. Let's check out one of the high severity breaches. Gives you details on exactly what happened. Very, very useful data in selling your MSP services to this client and telling your story. So now that we've gone through all of the detailed areas of assessment, let's head out to the risk analysis and get an overall analysis of what's going on. This is a culmination of all of our findings and breakdown of device vulnerability, password security, and the risk by data cost. And you could see an analysis of all the data that we gathered in each of the very specific areas of assessment. Heading over to the overview, this is an even higher level overview, a summary. You get a grade for each area of assessment. As you can see, are very, very easy to understand. We also have benchmarks on how this client compares to other companies in the same industry. So very useful in terms of convincing them, hey, this is the standard and this is where you are. It's you have a very, very easy to understand executive summary and graphics that offer visibility into device vulnerabilities. All very easy to consume, very easy to understand for even non-technical decision makers and key stakeholders. So the last part, let's head over to the reports. This is probably the most exciting part for me at least. So you can see the various.
Now we're talking about what they can actually do with it. So that's just good.
Exactly, yeah, like a client-facing material. So one of the things I love about Telivy is the team and the team, we're all very client-focused, right? We understand that you're trying to sell, you're trying to convey, you're trying to tell this story to your clients, trying to convey these vulnerabilities to them. So put together the various reports, various detailed reports, raw data reports. I'm going to go ahead and focus on the Telivy complete report PDF. So let's check that out. So normally, after you manually run a risk assessment without Telivy, and you're going to have to aggregate all that data, all that information, make sense of it, and make it presentable and something that the client would understand, clients who are non-technical. But Telivy puts together all that information for you in this beautiful landscape slide deck PDF with graphics that are easy to understand, ready to present to the client, easy for non-technical stakeholders to understand. And this report can be white labeled. So yeah, and that about concludes the demonstration of Telivy. So you could try out Telivy now for free at telivy.com. Yeah, I'll pass it back over to you.
Thanks, Jeremy. That's great demo, great sort of range of pieces in that mix that you provide. And I'm just sort of thinking again back to the myriad of tools that a partner might have, and try to explain that in a good way, easy way to their customers is pretty much solved there, right? I mean, you're some of that access you may never show them, but at least you can know and share highlights, and then you get the reports to go from there. So that's super. Thank you very much. Naren, I'll go into ours and Bill's section, but maybe just at a high level, just describe how you price and how you structure a customer or an MSP usage plan.
Yeah, so basically we do a simple pricing per endpoint in blocks of 50, and that decreases as volume increases and such. So you can do it either on a monthly basis or contract basis. And then if you, of course, if you pay for us, you also get Actifile.
Perfect. Okay. I'm going to try my video again here, see if this gets any better, because people want to see my pretty face. So as part of that, let's go into just a quick highlight. I wanted to show people what Nodeware provides, not necessarily demo, but Nora, if you could put up that slide, just describing what Nodeware is. It's again, it's continuous vulnerability scanning, and what we really mean by that is every asset every day is rescanned, and actually even more minutely by we can look at a system, look at it across a network and see if a device is online, and we can fingerprint it, and then again we're scanning for new known vulnerabilities and exploitable activities across every device, and that's rescanned. So we do that via sensors on the network, agents that can be on individual devices on the network or remote, as well as externals scanning for websites and other IP addresses that you are managing. We can provide real-time alerts on network access, and when a new device comes onto the network, BYOD printer, for example, we can alert that, tell you what it is, and start scanning it for any potential risks. But as an MSP, you can get alerts directly. And then, again, kind of like Telivy is preparing, right? It's insurance, compliance, audits, all the rest of the materials. We have some very specific reports as well that are available either directly in the Telivy data set or in your usage of Nodeware directly. But lots of different reports. One of the sort of key advantages up front is on the very front of the deployment is a very simple deployment, just like Telivy is. The Nodeware deployment is less than 20 minutes to be able to set up a new customer. and very short time after that collecting data. But what we also provide, and I think you saw it a little bit in there that Jeremy showed, is the remediation suggestions and details, and that really comes from our deep scan technologies that we've embedded into the network sensor as well as the agent. So really, again, some of our bigger MSPs and smaller ones is saying, wow, if I get that data, that's saving me 15, 20 minutes or more of research time per vulnerability that they typically find. So if we can provide that more in a direct and useful manner, then that's a great savings of time on that tech. And as we all know, tech's time is more and more valuable as there become fewer and fewer available folks to do that material, that process. So that's a quick overview of Nodeware. We'll provide some more contact information after that, but we can go to the next slide, and we'll have Bill, if you want to talk a little bit about Actifile and tell us why it's the best thing since sliced bread.
Sure, happy to do that. Thanks to everybody. So before we go to what is Actifile all about, a couple of concepts to communicate. And for starters, this is a business problem really that we're collectively trying to solve. And it's interesting to see how the vendors here are aligned, and we think we're aligned with the intention of our partners in the MSP ecosystem, which is to either put an MSP into the security business or to enable them to be better at being in that business. So enabling the capability to fight this fight. And we all know that it's a big problem. We all know that compliance, that our government or governments are helping to find what the demand will look like in the marketplace, and we're fortunate participants in all of that. And so I think our collective goal is to be in the security business across every customer that we have, across every endpoint that we have, and the message here collectively is to help you do that. So when it comes to performing the compliance services that Telivy is all about, that's the first step. That's like the eye candy that can be used to present to an end customer where there are vulnerabilities and where the risk lies. And then the second part of that, of course, is what do we do to go about delivering those services with these great technologies. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that it's a very crowded market. There's a lot of noise. MSPs know that better than anybody. You're getting hit by 50 vendors a day, but we got the best mousetrap or the new sliced bread kind of thing. And so for us, I think for us at Actifile, it's important to talk about where we fit in. So data security is not the obvious component. It's not as obvious as vulnerability or access management or some of the other things that have been around for a while. So I'll describe it by way of an analogy, and think about a jewelry store. So in a jewelry store, it's filled with Rolexes and diamonds and gold. And the jewelry store owner hopefully has taken steps to protect those assets, that inventory. And they do that by putting an alarm in and putting cameras in, which is about the perimeter. And if they're in a high danger area like New York or a city, maybe they have the chain link fence to go up and down to, depending on the time of day, to protect those assets. And think about that a little bit, about the kind of customers that you might have. So there's certain customers, maybe it's a medical office or a financial services company, that definitely has a higher risk profile than the construction company down the street that doesn't have as much exposure. But again, lots of technology around the perimeter, which is really, really important. What Actifile does is, and we'll talk a little bit about how we do that in a minute, but we protect the inventory by rendering it worthless, really, if someone were to get in. And ultimately, what this is all about is protecting the data, and through our encryption technology, following the analogy, those diamonds are carbon, or the Rolexes are fake and not worth as much as they would be otherwise. So that's the analogy. Next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit about what we do. The classic, here are some features, and we'll talk about the benefits. So what does Actifile really do? If you look at the wheel, start at the top. So we classify data through our technology. We're able to harvest and inventory and classify sensitive data. Think PII, CUI, and pick your acronym representing sensitive data across a customer's network or cloud infrastructure. Then we marry that data against third-party databases that have established the dollar amount per file were it to be stolen or somehow compromised. So we look at every single file. So if it's Frank's driver's license and it leaves the building, how much could that cost the company? And that's all aggregated together, and we saw that on Naren showed Jeremy showed the one slide with the aggregated amount of risk. So that's a risk number were some catastrophe happen for a business, and for many cases, in most cases, it's actually a really big number. So that's the assessment and the risk calculation part of it. The second part of it is the risk changes. The data moves around like every second in an organization. And so what we do is we track that. So when the data moves, when someone touches it, when they save it as, when an application touches it, we track all that stuff. And there's an audit. There's a database tracking all of that. It's very useful in forensic and other sort of looking back exercises if a threat occurs. So that's the second thing, is we monitor the flow. And then the third thing is we protect, which is not the technical term, but through our autonomous encryption capabilities, which is AI driven, which the policies could be driven by law, by regulation that says that if you're a medical practice, this type of data needs to always be encrypted at rest and flight and so forth and so on. And as we all know, compliance is driving a lot of this that have turned into sort of common practices for MSPs that are serving certain industries. So think about an encryption capability that is sensitized by the type of customer, the business processes and practices that an organization wants to have. And in that way, it not only protects, but it does so in a way that's non-disruptive. It doesn't overreach. It certainly doesn't encrypt every single file in an organization, but it does so thoughtfully or sensitively based on these business rules. And then similarly, if someone has valid access to Frank's driver's license number, then through the same type of technology, it decrypts the data and makes it available in a way that also doesn't disrupt business process and workflow. So in a temporary way, it makes that data available. And all that is about reducing the risk profile. So a lot of the work that we do and we're doing together is talking about risk as a big number, and then how do we reduce that risk? And Actifile partners and their customers are seeing an amazing benefit, north of 90% risk reduction in their client environments when the tech is fully implemented. So then extend that out. If you're able to do that, you can go to your customer and say, listen, that cyber insurance policy, when it comes up for renewal, you're either going to be more insurable, which I think is a word. Certainly you have an argument to reduce your exposure and therefore your premiums for your end customers, and also for you as a service provider. So there is a tie-in to both compliance and the insurance issues that we're all facing in the marketplace.
Got it.
Next slide, please. So again, some of the benefits, short time to value. Again, you saw the Telivy, it gets installed, and within hours, the data is being collected, and you're seeing these numbers, how to manage it, once decisions have been made to implement the protection part of it's very intuitive. Again, business process is actually, out of the box, depending on the type of business, is pre-configured to start protecting and encrypting the data. And then again, set and forget, that's a marketing term, might be a little strong. Of course, there's no such thing, but it is quite true that when it's configured, the AI does help with the ongoing turning of dials, if you will, to optimize the use of the system. And then, great integration with the other tools that you all are used to using. So that's the.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. Thanks, thanks, Bill. Actually, I think my video might have cut off there.
No, you're good. We see you.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. All right. So that's a good question. So I mean, a good summary. Appreciate that. One of the things kind of was asked beforehand in the pre-question is, what's the relationship? And I may have sort of hinted at this lightly, but I'll just reference it quickly. So we're, 3 different companies here working together to provide value to the partners. So kind of the second part of the question is, how do we buy the product? So Naren has a sort of an all-inclusive program, but you can also buy Nodeware and Actifile sort of independently, use it as its own tool, and then played into the assessment tool that Telivy provides. So that's a just kind of wanted to set that forward. And Naren, so just reiterate, how long does it take, right, to perform a risk assessment, right? You got one thing, you have to assume that the data is there, but once the data is kind of in and collected, and you're comfortable with it being, if you will, legitimate data, how long does it take, and how often should somebody do it, right? What's the regularity of performing this assessment?
Yeah, I mean, once the configuration process is done, we're seeing the data. It takes us anywhere between 24 to 48 hours to get the report out itself, and then you can immediately use that to analyze, to add your own input into that and show that to your client. And you can run this. You can just keep the agent running, and we will keep giving you the weekly report or the reports on a monthly basis and such as well, and even show how different risks change over time.
Got it. Okay. Perfect. And Bill, just sort of in terms of, sort of how to, I mean, it's kind of, I think you described it a bit, but how is sort of Actifile sort of evaluating that data? Maybe just repeat that, because that's, I mean, it sounds like, oh, you just take numbers and put them together, but there's a lot more science behind it. Maybe just kind of do a quick review of how you calculate that value.
Yeah. So there's 2 pieces. One is the harvesting or the aggregation of all the sensitive data. So part of the IP is that we know what sensitive data is. We know what it looks like, and we know where to go find it. So there's an agent that's installed for anything that's, on a hard drive, whether it's a laptop or servers or connected storage and whatnot. And then our sensor tech is the element that's able to do the same thing for data that might be in SharePoint or OneDrive or some other cloud infrastructure. And so that's and again, it can be tuned to just get sensitive data, or it could say, get every file that's that an organization has. So think about that over in a column, and then next to it, companies like Pete Marwick, KPMG, and others that are there are a couple of organizations, I can't remember the names of them, that are more focused on medical data. So they've done the hard work to go through and establish the dollar amount on every single type of data. And again, back to Frank's driver's license number, there's a number established and accepted sort of best practice or accepted industry fact based on a lot of factors, including reputational risk and other and compliance fines and so forth and so on. Of course, ransomware and so other things that influence that overall number. So that number is then married to the file that we found, and that's how you get a number per file. And then again, it's all aggregated together.
Got it. Okay, no, that makes sense. So let me see. We're just trying to look at a couple of the questions that have come. We're kind of into a Q&A part. So maybe that's just actually kind of a good one. Kind of training. So I'll answer first. Just from a Nodeware deployment standpoint, our support team will be on and take you through your first deployment, walk you through, make sure it's set up right. But it's really pretty simple. We have some car dealerships as they're rolling out their FTC safeguards they're actually deploying them themselves. So it's that straightforward, and we have some scripts and a really large knowledge base. Bill, maybe is there any kind of training elements or key pieces that you need to share with an MSP as they go?
Yeah, so similar story. So there's a couple elements, and frankly, a lot of our training, which I think is an industry issue, is training on what's this compliance all about. So we spend a lot of time on the business issues, frankly, on what they should be aware of so they can bring that discussion to their clients. So think about that as thought leadership and other things that we do. Then there's the how-to part, which is how to install it. There's an agent install, there's scripts and all that kind of stuff to get the agent out there. I think the main thing that deserves our attention is the encryption and decryption rules, and how some of them are pre-configured, as I mentioned, and then a lot of it is determined between the service provider and the end customer. How far down do they want to crank the dial? So with Actifile, you can encrypt everything, and then you're going to bring the company to a standstill. So somewhere in there, but again, bringing it down pretty far is what our customers do to get it to this over 90% risk reduction. That's the discussion. It's how much risk, what's the risk tolerance for the end customer, and how to tune Actifile to reach that goal. And then there's a bunch of use cases that come out of that we have materials on. So we have materials. We do one-on-one training. We have people that used to be MSPs that are now on our team to help implement. I think it's very powerful that they have that context. Some of it is built in multi-step courses, and then of course some of it's a video and other avenues to make it more available on demand.
Got it. Perfect. Thanks. And Naren, same kind of quick question, then I've got a follow-up to that. So go ahead and what's the typical onboarding for a Telivy customer?
Yeah. I mean, so for us, essentially, we have a trial period, and during the trial period, you're able to get on an onboarding call, and especially to get your first assessment set up, we're able to help you out with that. And then we have seen that after a couple of times, after 2 runs or so, it becomes very obvious on what to do, and the MSPs are able to kind of take it on from themselves at that point.
Got it.
But we basically structure education on 3 points. One is around education aspect of it, around the installation aspect of it. So that one becomes a pretty easy way to go about it and educate after the first couple of times. The second one is how do you actually read the report and communicate that to your client once you have actually had
question. Yeah, that's a good point, because one of the questions that came up in the panel is, when presenting risk score to the clients, what data kind of jumps off the page? What are they kind of most scared about? What are they most, so I can it probably creates an action plan for them. But is it password? Is it network gaps? Is it data risk value? Is it just oh my God, I got lots of vulnerable devices here, I need to go patch those? What's been the interaction that you've heard back from the MSPs?
Yeah, and that's kind of the biggest kind of source of attention that comes from is essentially like showing the assets and where the liabilities live in those assets. So for example, if you have a lot of applications and if you're able to show the passwords, if you're able to show that we're able to get all the passwords from those applications, to enter into those, and then also how many times have they actually been breached already or been found in breach sites. That's a very clear example of, okay, your application and such and your passwords on certain assets, there's a liability in that, you know, anyone from externally can able to breach them and find them out. And then what is the real solution for that? That is to implement a password manager, right, and make sure that you're able to reuse or replace your password at a very healthy basis, have the best practices there. So that's also led by security awareness and training. So it's kind of just identifying that whole three-step process and then being able to really pull a story out of it is what really resonates with the end user. And then to kind of also to give some more color to that, one is to how do you communicate the end of the report to the user, but also like how do you even start the conversation with the client itself, right? How do you let them know that a cyber risk assessment is necessary? So we're able to kind of bring out the right type of materials for that.
Perfect. Well. Okay. So related to that, there's another question came in about, you know, how does Telivy, or does, I guess, and how does Telivy find correlations between tools like Nodeware and Actifile to maybe reduce, you know, false positives, or and perhaps how, you know, how you rank risk shown in the reports, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. So essentially, we provide an agent that installs Nodeware and Actifile, some of our own tools and such as well. And that's so, and then we know exactly what device that's actually installed on, and then that's how we correlate. We also know what user is on that device, if possible, and then we also see how they've been doing in the phishing test and such. And what type of, if their information has been leaked on a dark web. So that's how we're essentially creating a mesh layer of different assets and the devices and information that's been found. So that's been really interesting.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And so another question about us asked, we mentioned, Bill and I mentioned insurance. So we are, you know, are we working with insurance companies, or is it perhaps to audit if an existing policy is compliant? It's kind of both, right? So we're working with folks like DataStream and Fifth Wall Solutions in sort of helping them, you know, do a determination around insurance or renewal of insurance, right? In the past, sort of vulnerability program was kind of a checklist, right? It just meant, you know, you could do it once a year and you validate it. But the continuous vulnerability in particular is becoming more and more of a requirement, where if you're able to show, or your end user is able to show their proactiveness in finding problems and fixing them before they become, you know, a true attack surface, and get hit, then you're showing value to the insurance company, and either, you know, at a minimum you're going to get renewed, or you're going to be showing that you're you know, doing the right thing. But in many cases, we've heard that actually the premiums are being reduced because you're being that much more proactive. So I don't know, Bill, is there any play you have specifically? I mean, I can go on more on insurance. We can, you know, whoever asked that question, happy to fulfill more. But where are you playing in the insurance game?
Yeah, so it's kind of the same thing. I think my, you know, overall perspective is that, you know, we all know that premiums are going up, and what's happening there is that the insurance companies have gotten burned over the last couple of years. And so because it's new and they're trying to figure out, you know, the smart guys with the, you know, the caps on are trying to figure out what the right numbers are, the actual actuarial evaluation it's new. And so they got burned, and now premiums are going up because they got to keep making money. And we're in that period where they're trying to figure it out. So there's that part of it. The second part of it, there's no doubt that these kind of tools are in the insurance company's vision, and they understand that they're hugely important in again, reducing the threat and improving. I think, you know, ultimately it's for them to widen the aperture across the number of companies that they can insure or that they will insure with cyber. Because right now, because they've gotten burned, they've, you gotta qualify. For them, ultimately it'll be about volume across the globe. And again, we play an important role in facilitating the goal.
Insurance companies, until they have a major disaster, they're sort of guaranteed profit makers, right? So they're trying to increase their premiums or reduce their payouts. So we can all help them reduce their payouts, and they'll make it more available. Again, we're not eliminating the total risk, but we're minimizing it. So.
Okay.
So let's try to kind of get towards a wrap up here. Let me just provide up some contact information for people to follow up and to dig into more each of the three solutions here. So for Telivy, again, just, telivy.com, you can contact support at telivy.com, send an email or again, and Naren mentioned a free assessment with them. So we will, and in the follow-up, we'll send these slides and the link so you can have the information more handy. So for Actifile, if you want to put that one up, so just info at Actifile, yeah, please, go to there, and good summary point, reduce the risk up to 98%. Thank you. And then finally for Nodeware, we can, nodeware.com is our website. We do proof of concepts and free trials for your customers. So love to get it sampled in your environment. Contact us at Nodeware at IGI US. We also have a set of services around penetration tests and CISO, sort of fractional CISO or team as a service to help get through strategy development and implementation. We provide that as well. So I think the next slide is maybe just a reminder on what's upcoming. I'm going to check and see if there's any more questions while we got. So we got that. We do have another question. I'm going to pull up here just as we go. Let's see. I think we got this. One more here. I think maybe we got them. Okay. So we just kind of go through, Nora, if you can kind of bring up the slide for Telivy, there's that contact one. And Naren, if you want to just kind of give a one quick, takeaway, key points that you want to reemphasize to the audience.
Yeah, I mean, so we essentially focus on automating cybersecurity risk assessments. We help you really spark that conversation with your clients or your prospect about how to start kind of moving from just a mere IT provider to really being a risk advisor, and kind of making that bridge. And we also help automate a lot of these security offloads workload by up to 80%, so you can just focus on analysis part and really that client relationship building part. You can get a free assessment for us, and we'll love to show you what the platform is all about and what we have done with our wonderful partners here at Nodeware and Actifile.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. And Bill, you want to kind of summarize what you want to get across today and where Actifile is available?
Sure. I think, a couple of points. One is, and I mentioned this before, I think collectively these, the three of us are really about either enabling or putting MSPs in the security business and identifying newfound revenue for the business. So our customers are seeing, at least a 25% uplift in what they're charging per endpoint through the use of these tools. And some of them are, it's 100%, but it's at least 25%. So that's an important message to get for everyone. And again, as you're hearing, I mentioned this before, this collective group, it's all about putting tools in your hand very inexpensively to perform these assessments. That's where it starts. And show them the eye candy, and you'll make a good impression in your market and hopefully find some new customers on top of the increased revenue.
Yeah.
And feel free to reach out for more information.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and I think sort of just to back up on that, I think one of the things, and one of the pre-questions was about what why you guys working together, and our goal and my goal personally is to make it easier for an MSP to deliver value to their customer, right? And that value could be in reducing the risk, it could be in helping them compliant on their tools. And when we're working together, right, the 1 + 1 + 1 equals 5 or 4 at least. Right, there's the power in the synergy, right? We're taking we're trying to take some of the complications of multiple tools out of your hand and making it, more reportable, more deliverable, more actionable. So we hope we've shown that today. And I don't think we have any more questions. So maybe we'll just we'll wrap it there. And let me thank everybody, Naren and Bill. Appreciate your time and discussion today. It's been very valuable. To the attendees, we will be sending out a recording of this. So if you want to share that with your colleagues, there may even be a few nuggets that we will splice out into some shorter commentary and videos on YouTube. So keep an eye out for those communications from us. We appreciate your time and attention today, and hope you have a great rest of your day and enjoy the long weekend coming up. Thanks again, Bill and Naren. Talk to you guys again soon.
Thank you, Frank,
Thank you,
and
Bill.
to all the attendees as well. Thanks for coming.
You bet.
Thank you.